Hello and welcome back to the Pet Business Wellbeing Podcast with me, Nathan Dunleavy. This is the podcast where we talk about the realities of running a pet business, the highs, the challenges, and most importantly, how to look after your well-being whilst you do it. Because running a business should support your life, not consume it. Penny Beeman, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. I'm so glad you're okay. You're another international guest. So you're in America. So whereabouts in the States are you?
I am in the northernmost part of Michigan, not as roads go, but as the crow flies. I'm less than 2 hours away from Canada.
Nice. Okay, great. Exciting. I'm so excited to chat with you. So, for those listeners or viewers who may not know you yet, could you please just tell us who you are and what it is you do?
Well, I own and operate Yooper Paws of Love is my main business. That is my in-person training center business and also my online business for pet parents. And then I do have a secondary business that I partner with some other trainers around the US called Crazy to Calm Canine Coaches. And that is our service dog business. It's more of a collaborative of different trainers pulling together, sharing resources versus competing against each other. So I really like to do that one. I just don't promote it nearly enough.
That's brilliant, Penny. Thank you so much. So, as I said, I'm so excited to have you joining me today. So, before we dive into everything, I'd love to start at the beginning. Every pet professional has a story, and yours is particularly unique. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, the journey that brought you where you are today? And I'd also love to hear about your service dog because I know that's played such an important part in both your business life and with your personal life.
Totally. So, like many people in the dog training business, I really did start out with dogs as a child. Just absolutely took to them, loved spending time with them, had them in my bed despite my mother's protest. But you name it, dogs were my thing, and all animals in general, but dogs more specifically a little bit heavier. My sister had a young Irish setter when I was maybe about 8 years old. And he was like the wild child of dogs. He really was. But I was able to pick up some tips from my dad, he was my dog lover person that got me to where I am today. And I picked up tips from him, and I was training this Irish setter that was the wild child at just 8 years old because my sister, she's 6 years older than me and was supposed to be training him, just couldn't seem to do it. But so that's where I started originally. And then we brought our own family dogs in when my husband and I got together. We started with German Shepherds, and that is still today our heart breed, the one that we love to have. Don't have one right now, but
Okay.
that's the breed that we love. And that kind of brought us into learning how to train more than just a family pet, right? Because German Shepherds are a dog that if they don't have a job, they're not really happy, right? They need more advanced stuff. So I learned how to train some of the advanced obedience, and then it all really started when I worked with some local fosters at the time, and we would take in, because I had teenagers in my home, we would take in the hardest of hardest dogs that no other foster home could place. We weren't long-term fosters, and we didn't always have a foster. When they had a big sales event coming up and they had a dog that no other home could manage, the dogs that were over the top, we took in that dog and we trained it basic house skills and basic obedience, so that dog was then more adoptable. And those dogs were always adopted out until we took in German Shepherd Cam. And he's really where I started to learn about why dogs become reactive and how that presents. And that was a big part of my business. When he came to me, he was severely people reactive and dog reactive. He had lived with a small dog before, and he did great at home with that small dog while his people worked and whatnot. And then that small dog disappeared, and all of a sudden, Cam developed a major case of separation anxiety. Was
Oh.
breaking out of the house, everything, which is how he ended up in my care. His person needed to find a new home, and she didn't find the home of her liking, so Cam ended up staying with us forever. But
Oh.
he became the best off-leash dog I've ever had, because with his anxiety and fears that he had, the very first thing we taught him was his safe place was in a heel at my side. So anything in the environment happened to scare him, no matter what it was. A child running up to throw him in a hug, a firework boom, which he was not good with loud noises, but anything like that. And he was at my side in a heel, no questions asked, nothing. That was it. That was his safe place, which was pretty awesome. But it wasn't an overnight journey, right? That's really where my journey into working with reactive dogs became. And that's where I started holding group classes in a local park, because I needed to get him around dogs at a safe distance, dogs with people that I could somewhat control and not just the random dog walking down the sidewalk, right? I needed people that I could say, all right, you guys walk here, let me walk there, transition this way, do that. All those little tweaks for what I do now in my business, right? I learned all of that mainly with Cam.
Oh.
And then
Lovely.
kind of fast forward, I don't know, we only had Cam maybe about 2 years when we relocated. My youngest child graduated high school and went off to college, and we decided to relocate to a dream area of ours in the northern Michigan, in the UP. And so that's what we did. And when I got here, I hate to say a low, but we all go through them. It was a
Do.
low, mainly because we were finally living the dream in our dream home, but I was such a community person in my last community that when I got here without having that sense of community, really, I struggled with that.
Oh.
So I brought in a new dog, which also at that time, my disability kicked it up a notch and my migraines became chronic, where I was having maybe one day a month without a migraine.
Oh, wow.
And that lasted for about 3 years. So in that time frame, and that's when I brought in my first service dog
Okay.
and really started doing the deep dive to service dog world. And still, I focused more on, I started group park settings, training fearful, reactive dogs, helping people in that nature. And then, unfortunately, I didn't have my first service dog really long due to a tragic accident. But that brought in my second service dog, Azul. And you know this, but
I
most
do.
people listening wouldn't know that I just recently lost him.
Oh, I know.
But so he was what really, when he was a puppy, that's when I decided to step it up a notch and not just do trainings in the park. He was just a teeny tiny puppy just in the house. So around 8 weeks old, baby. That's when I stepped it up a notch and decided to proceed through the process of getting my advanced behavior certificate. Found a great course with C out of Sweden. All these technology things, we can take training from literally anyone worldwide. So I actually learned about animal behavior from the science aspect of it at that point. And that's where I really took off, doing more and more. Azul was not aggressive or reactive in any way, but because that was the place that I started, that's the place that I continued. So at that point, I mixed a little bit of, I needed to do socialization for Azul, but I've always had it in my heart to help those dogs that were struggling with life in general, with the world. Didn't want to own one at that point. I still had Cam, but I wanted to help those in the community.
Yeah.
So again, I started with local parks, branching out, pretty much sharing my services for free to try to support my dogs a little bit better and gain that experience. And then I actually just stumbled across the training center that I have at an amazing low price. And I thought, I don't know if I'm ready to do this. And of course, we have the good friend, Dr. Holly Tat,
We do.
And she said, you need to do this. Take the leap. I was really lucky in the beginning to get this no questions asked lease, month by month lease, because I was taking over somebody else's lease. So if it lasts 2 months, if it lasts 3 months, all's good. I'm not on the hook for anything longer. That was 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
A super longer process, but that was the leap that propelled me forward, right? Having that in-person space, not needing to work out of local parks. Not that we still don't go to local parks a lot, right? But having that place where I could really dive into the one-on-one behavior evaluation side of things for all dogs. And that's really where I still focus with a lot of my clients, is that bigger picture behavioral evaluation. Now I have 2 other trainers that work with me that do a lot of I call it the simpler stuff, right? It's still not necessarily simple, but
No, I know.
the puppy classes.
Yeah.
One of my trainers specializes in small dogs, so she takes most of the small dog clients, unless they're really struggling with fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've divided it out and who does what so that we're not overwhelmed. None of us are overwhelmed in that too many clients picture, because we quickly realize that. We are the only ones in our area that focus on positive-based force-free training.
Really?
Versus relying on tools and whatnot. We are in a very small community, right? There's probably, within an hour's drive, there's probably less than 5 dog trainers. But all of the other ones rely on the tools that we don't choose. So all of our training is based on meeting the owner and the dog where they're at and supporting them through helping them to create the best journey that they have.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So I've tweaked things over the years and really come down to, and this is from the urging of my clients, lining everything out into the behavior detective kind of, that's my theme, that's my framework and focus, because that is my bigger mission. Who doesn't love teaching a puppy class, right? They're sweet, they're cuddly, they're great. But my other trainers can handle that, and I really love figuring out what makes this dog work. Why are they doing the behavior they're doing? What small changes can we make to slowly get that behavior into a more human world acceptable behavior, right? Without pressure, without stress, and leading both dog and owner to a life that they can feel good about together.
Yeah.
That's my overarching goal. So that does apply to service dogs. As well, being the first service dog at the training center, he's our training center mascot for a long time. Helped with a lot of group classes until he got sick about 3.5 years old. He still helped with the occasional class after that, but he took a back step at that point, and that's right about the time that I brought in my now current service dog, Belle. So she attends just about everything with me when I'm at work, training center, out in the community, wherever I'm at, she's pretty much there with me. She does have a nice office area where she can hang out if I'm working with a really reactive dog. But she's also her whole life been part of that reactive dog picture, where she's the first dog we introduced reactive dogs to. Because she's so calm, so mellow, and will just chill. And if they need space, she'll stay back. And if they want to do a nose-to-nose greeting at our gate that separates her space and the dogs, she'll do a nose-to-nose greeting. She'll go wherever she feels that dog is. And sometimes she's better at reading the dogs than I am.
Yeah.
I'm really good at it. But some dogs, especially if they're experienced with other dogs, can really read dogs well. And that's what I have with Belle. So she's like the perfect business support dog and service dog support dog, all rolled into one.
Oh,
She's
brilliant.
asking me to play ball at the moment.
Oh, is she? Oh, bless. Oh, wow. Go on.
I was just going to say, she knows when I start using her name a lot, and that's when she gets ready to play.
It's like mine. They see me starting to talk, and just now, like, bit of them were just having a party on the sofa because they see me or hear me talking. Then they're like, "Oh, right, now is the time that we start being more alert and we want to get in on get in on what's going on. And then if I'm on these podcast recordings or I'm doing a session on Zoom, I can't say BYE out aloud because that's a signal to them to just think, okay, it's time to start going mental and barking. Penny, that's such a fascinating story, and I'd love to pick at a few strands if I may.
Yes, please do.
So you mentioned that you've got Bao as your service dog now, and you had Azul before. What breed of dogs are they, and is there a specific breed that better suits being a service dog or not?
So Azul was a Husky Golden Retriever mix. If you want to get fancy, the fancy term for that mix is a Goberian.
Okay.
Mixing Golden and Siberian, right? Goberian.
I haven't heard of that one before.
He was such a clown type personality that I always just called him my little goober.
Your little
Goober?
Oh, goober.
Like Goberian, but goober.
That's sweet.
He was like, his purpose in life, if dogs have their own purpose, his purpose in life was to make everybody happy. Right? He actually was better suited as a therapy dog. He worked great as a service dog while he was working as a service dog. And then he got some tick-borne diseases. We have nasty ticks in our area, and that kind of made him want to opt out of working in louder situations. So he started opting out of doing stuff, and then over the years, he just opted out more and more. But he never opted out of his therapy dog work, right? He still loved going to the library, which is one of our big places where we do therapy dog work. We do a reading program with kids. And anytime he could go and get pets, he's the dog that there were 3 people on this planet that he didn't like. I know why he didn't like all 3. I have an inkling in why he didn't like all 3, right? Other than that, he met thousands of people and he just loved them all. And it was funny because there was one winter, especially where we were at the library a lot, where he was getting a lot of static shock to his ears. He had these cute little floppy ears. And so whenever somebody would reach to touch his ears first, because that's what everyone would dive to, he would divert and give him a different way. Pet me anywhere else. As soon as you dispelled that static shock, then he was like, now rub my ears. Now rub my ears, right?
Yeah.
He just didn't like that shock there. So he was great at communicating what he wanted to anyone, even non-dog people. Even he created a couple of games with my grandson when he was just a puppy and my grandson was less than a year old, right? They created their own love language.
It's nice.
And he was just that kind of dog. So he was perfect for expanding the business and getting it where he is. My current dog, Belle, is a Black Lab Shepherd mix. And she looks just like a small, chunky Black Lab. And she is on a diet. She's a little bit overweight, but her had the chocolate lab beefiness to him, so he was quite wide. And to me, she's like the perfect dog. She's just over knee height and so she's the right size. She's easy to manage, but she fits in small places, but she's got that large breed mentality that I love so much.
Yeah. Okay.
We actually brought her in to be a demo dog for the business, not a service dog. But then as she grew up and Azul started opting out of doing more service dog work, she naturally just faded into that. And she's awesome about it. She does a lot of light mobility stuff. If I have a migraine hit and I'm starting to get a little bit disoriented or struggling with brain cells, she can help me find the car or help me go find a family member by doing a light guiding to get me there. She also does a lot of things like retrieving my medications or retrieving my drinks, finding my glasses or phone when I sit them down somewhere and can't find them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she does a lot of things like that really help mitigate my disability. And without that, I would really struggle to maintain a business, right? Those little support systems that we put in place. She is my support system that helps me do more with my clients because she's there to support it.
So you have touched on what a service dog does, and I'd like to just delve into that a little bit more then. You mentioned your disability. So if you don't mind me asking, is your disability around the migraines? Is that what your disability is?
That was the straw that broke the camel's back, really, right? I have 2 to 3 different autoimmune issues, and the migraines are likely a result of one of those autoimmune issues.
Okay.
They could be a standalone. It's like when you start looking at the world of autoimmune, there's so much overlap that even doctors, they can't tell me. So one of them is a rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis. Stiff joints, achy, hard to move. Another one is a very rarely known one. It's called Sjogren's syndrome, but really it's like everything is dry, which makes the RA worse because your joints are now dry. That's why I tend to drink a lot of water and do a lot of frequent sips, because I'm constantly dry and I can suddenly go into a coughing fit because I didn't drink enough. Because any part of your body that normally makes fluid, mine doesn't.
Okay. Okay.
It does, just not efficiently.
Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, but the RA and the Sjogren's, they overlap. So the migraines could be attributed to either one of them. That's a side effect of both of them, or a potential symptom of both of them. And so are a lot of the other things that I struggle with. But what really, when I say the migraines were the straw that broke that camel's back, when they became chronic and I was doing maybe 1 day free a month without a migraine, then you're still exhausted and struggling on that day because you've had migraines nonstop.
Yeah.
That hit for about a 3-year time period, just before, maybe about a year before I got Azul. And so that's really when it's like I couldn't go out to the kitchen to get a drink for myself because I just didn't have the energy to do it.
Mhm.
Right. And that's when I did the deep dive into the service dog world and learning, what does it take? You have to be disabled, and then the dog has to be trained to do a job that mitigates that disability. So retrieving things, going to get drinks. My dogs also do medical alerts. They will alert to an increasing in intensity migraine. So if I don't have a migraine at all and one's coming, they will alert to that. But I may also have a migraine for 4 days straight. So versus alerting nonstop for those 4 days, they will alert like when the pain meds are starting to wear off and I need to do more meds, or when it's about to take a turn for the worse. Or it hits that point where, no, you need to sit down now and rest. And so their alerts tell me that time to take a break, get a drink, put your feet up, take your meds, all of that kind of thing. That's extremely helpful into what I can do for my day.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more managed now, right?
Yeah.
Thanks to all my time and dog support and medical support, I am now to the point to where I may take meds for my migraines twice a month now
Okay.
versus every day.
Yeah.
That's where it started, but now it's more like twice a month.
Yeah, you have my sympathy because I'm a migraine sufferer. But a few years ago, I was getting these really bad headaches, and it was the worst pain I'd ever experienced, excruciating pain. And it turned out I had high blood pressure, and it was a bit of a vicious circle. And I had to go to A&E, and I had to have all these different scans. And it turned out that I had pressure behind the eye, so it was idiopathic intracranial hypertension. And
Mhm.
so it was like a bit of a vicious circle because then the high blood pressure was causing the migraines, but the migraines was causing the high blood pressure. So yeah, I had to go on medication. And like I say, the pain was deliberating, like nothing like I'd ever experienced. So I can totally relate to some of the pain that you must experience. So by having a service dog, then you've mentioned some of the tasks that the dogs help with, but by having a service dog, that's helped you in life and in business then, because the service dog is like you said, as a support function.
Totally. And one of the services that I offer, thanks to having young service dogs that needed to go out and about and do public access training myself, that's one of the services I provide to local people is that I teach them how to do public access training, going out into new environments and helping build their confidence, because in the US, you can train your own service dog. And if you get a fully trained service dog, already trained, ready to go, the day you bring them home, you're likely to spend anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. Yeah.
Only.
So for the average disabled person who's living on a budget, without having some wealthy family members or a community that's willing to fundraise and bring in support, that's just out of the question for a good majority of people. And so I really work as more a mentoring capacity with people that want to train their own service dog. So I can help them with everything from selecting the right puppy all the way up to fully functioning, able to join them. I've had some go off to college with their younger people. I've had some work full-time in a business. It's really kind of neat to see where service dogs how they help people branch out to what they are capable of doing, like what they wouldn't be able to do without that service dog in tow. I
Yeah.
also provide low-cost services to any of our local veterans that are in need of a service dog.
Oh, wow.
And one of my biggest reasons for doing that is one of the most underserved populations in our area. And so I was running into service dogs out in public that didn't have the skills to be there, right? They were young, the person didn't know what they were doing. The people weren't necessarily young, but the dogs were young, and there just wasn't resources for teaching them how to train their own service dog in our area. And so that creates problems for my service dog if there's an undertrained dog in the store as well, or in the doctor's office or whatever.
Mm.
So that's where I started my kind of local outings. And once a week, we do a group outing, and anyone who wants to join can join. And it just helps build that confidence for those people that are now breaking into the service dog world for the first time, training their first service dog. And we walk them through starting small and building up, so that we have greatly reduced the undertrained dogs in our area and increased the amount of dogs that are actually trained to do the jobs that the people need them to do.
Yeah.
So that's
Good.
been really nice.
Brilliant.
And my service dogs definitely help with that.
No, I love that. It's hard running a business anyway, but it must be even harder having a disability and trying to run a business, isn't it?
One of my biggest hangups, and of course, Holly was great with this, but the cancellation policy, right? I dreaded writing a cancellation policy because I know at any given morning, I can wake up and say, today's not happening. Whatever was on the schedule for today, it's just off, right? So with Holly's support, I was able to really create that cancellation policy that fits for me, which is super liberal. There's still that policy. So if I get that no call, no show, that's the hardest one, a no call, no show. And I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs, and it's annoying, right? And losing money, could have filled that spot with somebody else, all the pros. So I have that cancellation policy, but it's also extremely flexible because I may need to cancel at a moment's notice. I extend that to my clients. Just my rule is let me know as early as possible. And then I love to put up, anytime somebody cancels, I put up a reel. Hey, my dogs and I got to do this today because I had a free hour. And maybe it was take a hike, or maybe it was take a bike ride, or maybe it was play in the training center because we're staying in the air conditioning, whatever it is. But that's why I don't mind so much those cancellations, because A, they're not usually just full out cancellations. They're usually rescheduled because I don't have too many clients just cancel on me.
That's good.
But B, it gives me more time to focus on what I want to do with my dogs that day. One of my hard things as a business owner is I don't always plan out enough fun activity to do with my dogs. If I'm doing too much in the business side of things, then my dogs take a back burner more than they should.
Yeah.
I think most of us that have dogs and run a dog-related business struggle with that and
We
feel like we don't train our own dogs enough.
we all feel guilty of that. Yeah, it's always the way. You've mentioned therapy dogs as well as
Mhm.
service dogs. For anyone listening or watching, are you able just to tell us what the difference is between the two?
Sure. So there's actually a couple of different qualifications, and I work with a wide range of pretty much everybody, which is why my main group is called Working Paws, because we do a lot of different jobs. But as I said earlier, a service dog is there to support a person with a disability. They have to have tasks trained for that disability. And if they're going out into public places, they have to have at least a basic set of manners, and that manners varies from area to area, but basic manners, to me, they have to feel confident enough to feel safe in that environment. Because if the service dog isn't safe in the environment, they shouldn't be there. They're a liability and a risk, right? But so that's the service dog. They have to have that basic one or more tasks that mitigate the disability and some basic manners, like being housebroken, not being disruptive, simple stuff like that is what it is in the US. A therapy dog is someone who, or is a dog that is, instead of supporting one person, they really support the broader community, if you want to look at it. So, depending on what their role is, like we go to the library for a reading program. So, my dogs support, in a therapy dog capacity, they support young kids that are learning how to read. We've actually worked with some disabled adults that were also learning how to read as well. So it's not just kids, it's all ages. But I've in the past had therapy dogs, and that's actually where I got started with therapy dogs, is in nursing home situations, right? Many years ago, I lost my dad in a nursing home.
Oh,
While he was there, the only person he would let in his room besides family was the person who came in with the therapy dog. And that's like shortly after my dad passed is when I got my very first therapy dog. Right? Brought in at that time, she was also another black lab mix. But so she became my first therapy dog that we did nursing homes, hospitals, schools, everything. So the therapy dog doesn't necessarily have access to the whole world and going anywhere like a service dog has public access. They can go in any place that human can go with a few restrictions. A therapy dog doesn't necessarily have access to places that are not pet friendly unless they're invited in. So like a nursing home isn't necessarily pet friendly. Not everybody can just take their gerbil in, right? But they invite therapy pets in on a regular basis, and a lot of different types of pets, not just dogs. Then there's what we call in the States an emotional support animal, which is
yes.
very similar, right? The emotional support animal is kind of, they're like a lot of times considered in the same world as service dogs, but they're really not. What they do is they support that human simply by being present. They're not required to have any specific training or do anything. It's just the act of, say, that person petting the dog helps the person. That's what an emotional support animal is. The people I work with, I really help them try to decide, do you just need the presence of a dog or do you need a task-trained service dog? Because the majority of people that would qualify for an emotional support animal in the United States would also qualify for a service dog. And the big difference is training. Service dogs have to be trained. Emotional support animals don't. Service dogs have access to public spaces. Emotional support animals do not. Same with transportation. So that is a really that's a thing that people struggle with all over the world. Or I should say all over the US, because those are US laws. Is that difference between what is an emotional support animal versus what is a service dog, because there really is a lot of overlap, yet they're totally different. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it is. I'm certainly learning a thing or two.
There's
Um,
another thing that's not as widely popular, and it's similar to the therapy dog capacity, right? And that's called an agency dog.
okay.
And versus, so my therapy dogs, when they're working in a therapy dog capacity, they're visiting hospitals, nursing homes, whatever, but a wide variety of locations based on an invite to come in, and I don't have any other connection with, I'm not employed by that place. An agency dog is a therapy dog in training in the idea that they serve the masses, but they generally work at one building and that is their agency, right? So one of my boy Azul's best friends is another husky, Maverick. He is an agency dog for Child Advocacy Center. So from the time he was a puppy, he was trained for this job. He works with the Child Advocacy Center, only with the Child Advocacy Center. He's there 5 or 6 days a week, depending, right? Because they get called in. And he serves kids of all ages with a lot of different issues. But so he's like a therapy dog in the sense that he will love on and share his love with anyone, but he doesn't always go out into the community to a wide variety of places like the nursing homes and libraries and things like that because he works so heavily in his building. He does branch out. He does some courtroom training too, or some courtroom work. There are some agency dogs that are trained specifically for the courtroom setting, and he has the training, but it's more like a side way that he supports his kids through the Child Advocacy Center. It's not his main role. So that's an agency dog, and they're basically held to the same high quality standard that a service dog would be. They just don't mitigate a disability.
Wow.
So
Fascinating. I'd love to just take you back to when we first started the podcast, and you mentioned that in your area there isn't a lot of dog trainers, but you're the only one that uses positive reinforcement, and that a lot of the others use tools. How important was it, or is it, for your ethics and values that you chose the positive reinforcement route, especially when dogs are being used for something as important like therapy and service dogs?
if you want a number rating on that, I would say it's a number 9, but I guess I have a unique perspective on that, right? I was a person that grew up not using force-free training techniques, right? And when I first started with my helping with foster dogs, my techniques were not necessarily the best, right? So I'm what most people in the dog training industry would consider a crossover trainer. I've used all the tools. I've used a shock collar, right? I know how they work. I know what they do. When Cam came to me, my German Shepherd, my last German Shepherd that was reactive, he came with a prong collar, and his previous person would put that prong collar on him and walk him through crowds of 3,000 plus people and loud music going on and concert type setting in attempts to try to desensitize him. And like all I had to do was pick that collar up and move it, and he would shrink into his shell, and you could see him shrink. So we had only had him maybe a week or so, but every time I touched this tool or shifting things, he just went nuts, like shrinking, small, could not help him feel safe in the environment at all. So I let him watch me. That tool went into the garbage. The garbage went out to the dumpster went out to the road, and he was with me for every step of the way. And that's really where I made that switch to now force-free is part of me, right? I made a promise to him that day, and every dog I've owned since then, that I will never use those types of tools again. And like, especially in my world, because everybody seems to love the electric fence. Everybody wants a fence. They want an off-leash dog because we have most people, we're very rural. So most people have a huge yard, too big to fence in, and they would want the electric fence so their dog can still have some freedom. I am not an advocate of electric fence by any means. But since a lot of my clients come to me having already worked with the tool, I take the approach of I could bash them for it and say, no, I can't work with you because you're going to keep using this tool. But that doesn't serve any purpose. So instead, my mindset on it is I want to meet people where they're at. If you as a dog owner are already using tools because that's what you've been trained and that's what you know, that's fine. You can still come to me. I'm still going to give you the same games-based, force-free training skills. And one of two things is going to happen. You're going to do 1 to 2 sessions with me and decide, nope, I don't like this force-free and I want to stick to my tools. Or in just a couple of sessions, that dog owner is going to go, oh, I guess I don't need the tools when I play these games. And those are the people that stay with me long term, and that's my ideal client, so that's what I focus on more. Somebody walks away and continues to use the tools, that's on them, right? But so I'm not a person that's bothered by somebody who walks in on their first day and comes in with their dog wearing a prong. Do I like it? No. But that's where they're at. That's what they were taught. And they don't know any better. So then I take it as that's my job to help them so that they don't need the prong, right? I want to give them other resources. And I say tools, I use games versus tools. That's not to say I don't use tools, right? I am a heavy advocate for there's leash laws in our areas for reasons. In the US, in most environments, it's unsafe to be without a leash unless you're on private property and there aren't any busy roads around, right? So there's always going to be tools like a leash. Because I've had huskies in my past and they tend to have an issue with flattened tracheas, I'm a very big advocate of not using a flat collar, especially on a young and adolescent dog. Not that I do train my dogs to work on a flat collar, but I want them to be wearing a harness through that adolescent time where the impulse control can get the best of them and they can suddenly pull and jerk, because even a flat collar can damage a neck.
Yeah.
So I do use tools. I just use tools that are designed to help the dog stay balanced and feel safe.
Yeah.
And with my dual connect harness system that I teach, because I work primarily with large dogs that are often stronger than the owner they're working with.
Mhm.
So I use a dual connect harness system that gives the owner enough control to be safe, but also is focused on helping the dog stay balanced so that you're not using that leash to control in a sense that say it's my way or the highway. We're a team together navigating this space together.
Yeah.
So that
Brilliant.
is very important to me, that I teach all of my clients how to create that teamwork lifestyle.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love that. And I just want to take you back. You mentioned that you've had your training center for 4 years. You didn't know at the time whether it was going to be for a couple of months or whatever. But as a business owner, that is a really big commitment, isn't it? So how did that make you feel at the time? And obviously, I guess it's been a worthwhile advantage to your business now.
Oh yeah, it was huge and it was scary. I probably reached out to I don't know how many different people beforehand and should I not, should I not? And of course I got weigh in on both sides. No, don't do it. You can't do it. Yeah, do it. No, don't do it. I heard it from all different sides. Holly was the one that's like, what are you going to lose if you don't try it? And what are you going to lose if you try it and it fails? How is that going to hurt you? Since I was lucky enough to be taking over somebody's lease and didn't have that huge commitment, it was just all right. Then I put a lot of time and effort into it, and then we closed. I didn't have a whole lot of damage that was going to happen if I lost it. That whole first 2 years, it was like I never knew if I was going to be open next month. So that was more stressful from the owner perspective. And now that we've been there 4 years, it's going. It supports itself. It's its own thing. The last year or so, I've been trying to branch out into more online stuff because there's only so much of me. And with my disability, there's only so many clients I can see in a week, and I easily max that out. And then I just can't do anymore. But online, I can serve a whole lot more people. I can keep prices down to be more affordable for my service dog clients. I do have service dog clients all around the world, which is nice. That's how I've balanced that. The training center has been amazing, and I love having that space. Even if it's just we've been in a heat wave and I don't have a whole lot to do, mostly Zoom-based. I could do it from home, but the training center gives us that place to go out and get into a bigger environment, get some energy when we can't play outside. And it really has made a world of difference for the services I can provide with my reactive dogs.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love that. Thank you so much. So, Penny, this podcast is all about the person behind the pet business. And your story has shown that our journeys aren't always straightforward. If there was one message you'd like pet professionals listening today to take away from your experiences, whether that's building a business, living with a disability, working alongside a service dog, or simply believing in themselves, what would you hope they remember after listening to this episode?
For me, like, it's the same as for my pet parents, right? Pet parents, other service dog professionals, you need a community around you. You really do. We all do. Some people need community a little bit more than others. But if you're going to run a pet business, community around you it will make or break you. It really will. So whether that's the form of a mentor that you're working with, I mean, that's what has pushed me to expand and expand, right? Having that mentor is aces in everybody's pocket. But that's just one step of your community, right? Like-minded professionals, whether they're doing the same type of thing. Like, I have some professionals in my network that are also training service dogs. I have others that are also doing reactive dogs. I have some that are maybe not as dedicated to forestry training as I am, but they're moving toward that. So I'm helping to steer them more and more toward that and less relying on tools.
Good.
But so the more that we can bring into our community that we can bounce ideas off of. And that's where I came up with my dog detective theme that I use in helping. The behavior detective idea is from pet professionals that I work with saying, what if you put this spin on it? What if you put that spin on it? Look at this. And also clients saying, I love to watch you interact with my dog because you're not just throwing the same game at me you threw at somebody else. You may start with the same game, but then you're tweaking it for my dog and making it work for my dog. And it's that community around us. They're the ones that are going to make our business be successful. Whether that's the clients we're serving, whether that's the other trainers, our mentors, our network of people that are doing the same thing. And you do behavior work, but you love the dog walker business. I have another person in my community. Actually, I have two different people, one online and one locally, that are dog groomers, right? I do not want to get into dog grooming. I can do cooperative care, but it's not my passion, right? So I will support clients through it, but ideally, if they want to just pay a groomer, I'm going to send them to somebody else. So having those kind of community connections really does make or break your pet business. So if you're thinking about it, if you're starting it, first of all, find at least a mentor. If you're just getting started out, find a mentor, right? Then with that mentor, pull in at least 2 to 3 other people that you can vent to when you're having a bad day. Put a sounding board idea out there. We'll say, I know you're frustrated today, but remember you've done this, so you're on the right track. All of that thing. That's the biggest thing that I think a lot of pet business owners struggle with, because we all feel alone, right? We're the only one in our community doing what we do or the way we do it. And if we don't build that community, if we don't seek out that community, it feels like we are the only ones out there. And as you and I both know, we're not. Just a shout out, like a positive reinforcement for the human, right? It was positive reinforcement for me. So me and one of my other local trainers recently signed up for a tracking class with a trainer in the UK. And as I was working through that, I decided to check out how she was doing her community space, because both you and I are doing new community spaces. And so I'm looking through some of the members there, and lo and behold, Amanda's name popped up. And I'm trying to think who else was there. I don't know, like 4 or 5 other people from our group with Holly are in that group already taking that same class. And I didn't even know they were there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it's building that community, because even though if I stall in that class, I know I can say, hey, Amanda, where are you at this class? How are you doing? Can we maybe make it a mission to work on it together if we're both stalled? That kind of thing. That's what your community is good for. It'll keep you moving forward and stop focusing on what you haven't done yet.
Yeah, brilliant. So, looking back over everything you've experienced, is there anything you'd say to the version of yourself who was just starting out, Penny?
I think when I started out, I didn't realize how much the dogs themselves were going to teach me, right?
Yeah,
So if I had to take that new trainer, that new thing, it would be really pointing out that what is that dog showing you in this moment? Which is actually what I now do with all my pet parents as well, too. But if I could tell myself, what did that dog tell you? What can you learn from that? How can you change your approach based on that? I wish I would have been doing that 30 years ago when I started with my first dog. First dog as an adult.
yeah,
So that would be nice to know back then.
yeah. Brilliant.
The lessons my dogs have taught me now, I couldn't even begin to count how many they are, because every dog has taught me more and more.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Penny, I've absolutely loved chatting to you. This episode has sailed by and it's been jam-packed. I'm incredibly blessed to know you. Obviously, I've met you through, we're both part of the same business coaching membership with Dr. Holly Tett, and we're also part of our mastermind group. And I'm incredibly blessed to know you from being part of Holly's group. It's so lovely to speak with you, knowing that I'm in the UK and you're in America. And yeah, you're just one of the people that I love to just chat to and hang out with. So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. The feeling is mutual, right? I love my core group of community people I have around me, and like some are in Dr. Holly Tett's circle, some are not. And I know you're starting your new circle, so I'm looking forward to that. And I think that is what makes us successful, right? Is who we put in our corner.
Definitely.
That's one of my new things that I've started, is we consider ourselves canine coaches for the service dog business. And so now it's the coach in my corner. And the more people I have in my corner, the more I can be that coach in somebody else's corner.
Yeah, I love that. Penny, if our listeners or viewers would like to find out more about you, how can they reach you?
The easiest way is hop onto my website at yooperpaws.com. Yooper Paws is my main name, and that's because it's the area where we live. We are considered Yoopers in Michigan. A slang term, but paws because I work with dogs.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one. A lot of people struggle with spelling it. So I'm going to spell it out. It's YOOPER. Yooper Paws. PAWS. It's yooperpaws.com. It's got all my contact information, all my socials, everything is there.
What I'll do is I will put all your details and links in the show notes. But Penny Beeman, thank you so much for joining me on the Pet Business Wellbeing Podcast. I've absolutely loved chatting with you today.
Thanks for having me. Have
You're
a good
most-
afternoon or evening where you are.
You're most welcome. Same to you. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Pet Business Wellbeing Podcast. If you enjoyed today's chat, I'd love it if you could share this with a friend. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And please consider leaving me a review, as it really helps me reach more pet professionals who need this kind of support. Until next time, take care of yourself, look after your well-being, and remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about building a business you actually enjoy being in. Before I wrap up on today's episode, I just want to share some really exciting news. The Pet Pro Reset experience is back. This is for my full public launch of Circle Plus, my group mentoring membership, which went live last month as a soft launch and has some founding members. And I now have the full public launch this month in July 2026. And the Reset experience is back next Sunday, the 19th of July from 7 p.m. We're together for 5 days. So there's 4 live teaching sessions on Monday the 20th at 7 p.m. The 21st is a rest and reset day. We're then back together on Wednesday the 22nd and Thursday the 23rd of July at 7 p.m. for the live teaching parts of the experience. And if you attended before and you want to come again, you're most welcome to. Sometimes listening to something a second time lands a little bit differently. If you registered before and life got in the way and you couldn't attend, you're most welcome to attend again. Or if you're even a founding member, as I've said, you're most welcome to come along as well. I'd love to see lots of familiar and happy faces and lots of new faces as well. So that's the Pet Pro Reset experience, the live public launch of my membership, the Pet Business Wellbeing Circle Plus with me, Nathan Dunleavy. It's all kicking off on Sunday, the 19th of July, 2026 at 7 p.m. And you will find details in the show notes and on my email list and on social media. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye for now.